Hey there, you're listening to the Girls Talking Life podcast, and I'm your host, Johanna. If you're like me, you love time with friends. I always leave feeling encouraged, inspired to try something different, or I've learned something new. So why not continue to grow even when we can't be with our girlfriends? We're not made to do life on our own. So in each episode of this show, I'll bring you a girl and her story to give you refreshing ideas to stir your soul. Let's walk this road together. Are you ready to talk life? Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you chose to spend some time here. If this is your first time listening, I'm so glad you're here. If you've been listening for a while now, welcome back. My girls start school tomorrow. They'll be doing a hybrid model, so they'll be in school 2 or 3 days a week and then home for virtual school the rest of the time. If you have kiddos or if you're a teacher or a student, I hope your school year is off to a great start, no matter what it might look like this year. Trying to think through our crazy school schedule, my work schedule, and trying to manage our home, I've gotten just the slightest bit overwhelmed. Plus, time has always felt like my biggest nemesis. So, today on the show, I am happy to introduce to you Amanda Warfield, simplicity lover, time management coach, and host of the Chasing Simple podcast. Amanda is passionate about helping women, like me and you, stop feeling like they are just getting by and instead guiding them and creating space for what matters most in their life. I love talking with Amanda. She gives some great high-level ideas and then really practical things we can implement today to simplify our lives and take back our time. Everything we talk about can be found in the show notes for today's episode, in your podcast app, or on girlstalkinglife.com. Here is my conversation with Amanda. Mrs. Amanda Warfield, hello.
Hi.
I am so excited to talk with you today. And I say that every single time I talk to a guest, but it's true. It is always true. I am thrilled to have you on. And I would like you just to start by introducing yourself. Who are you? What do we need to know about you?
Well, first, Johanna, thank you so much for having me. I'm just ecstatic and just so honored to be here. I'm so excited. But I'm Amanda Warfield, and I am a time management coach for entrepreneurs and also some non-entrepreneurs. It just kind of depends on who wants me and what they're looking for. But yeah, I help women mostly take back their time for what really matters most to them. And that varies by person. Some people are moms, some aren't, some want more time for themselves, some want more time for their husbands, or whatever it may look like. But I just love helping people simplify what they're doing in their lives so that they can take back their time and just have, I don't want to say control, but essentially more control over where their time is going and where their attention is going. And so they can be more present with the people that matter most to them.
That sounds amazing. And I invited you on because I need you in my life. I feel like I used to be good at time management, or I used to tell myself I was, I'm not sure. But as things get piled on, and as I started a family and have my job and my podcast, and just the more and more you get, the harder it is. And so I want to hear all that you have to say.
Yeah, it's really funny because a lot of my clients, they are women who are super organized. And because they're so organized, they've always thought that they could manage their time really well. But then, like you said, the more they add and the more they try to do, the worse it gets because they fed themselves this lie that they were really good at doing all the things really well, when in reality, we cannot do all the things at all.
Yeah, so I am bad at it now. I admit, I have discovered time management is not my thing anymore. I feel like there are 2 starts kind of to the year, and New Year's obviously is one of them, but fall, people go back to school, whether you have kids that are going to school, whether you're a student, or lots of my friends are teachers. It's a great time you have that opportunity to start managing your time differently, which is why I think this is a super great time to be talking about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I am wholeheartedly behind that because I was a teacher before I started my business. And so I've always lived by the academic year schedule. I still even use my paper planner as an academic year one because there's just something about fall that is there's a renewal, right? And like you said, a great time for change. But I will say that especially in light of everything that's happened this year, I just want to remind everyone that you can make a change to your routine at any time, and you don't have to feel like you're stuck in a routine. I was actually talking to someone just yesterday who said that with all of the coronavirus stuff, she knew she needed a new routine, but she was so resistant to creating new routines because she wanted to go back to her old one so badly. And I just want to remind everyone that our seasons of life are always changing. And with every new season of life, we're going to need a new routine, and that it is okay to change that at any moment.
That's a great point. Thank you. You had a point in your life where you kind of discovered the idea of minimalism. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about what your life looked like leading up to that.
Yeah. Okay. So just like I was saying a minute ago, where a lot of my clients, they're super organized. And so they fall into this trap of thinking they can do all the things. That was me. That was 100% me. And what ended up happening was that, all through high school, all through college, I was a very organized person. I was able to be in all the clubs and do all the activities, handle my schoolwork. Like I was a great student, all of this stuff. Then I got married. And the first few years were fine. I finished college, got my first full-time job, did all the things. And then my husband got orders for Washington State. He was in the Navy at the time, and we are from South Carolina. So it was literally as far across the country as we could get, but we were excited. Like we wanted to explore the world and see more places while we could and while the Navy was paying for it, right? So we were really excited about the move. But there were a lot of consequences that come with that. And what ended up happening was that my husband, he immediately got deployed. We moved Memorial Day weekend, and by August he was gone. And so we had not finished unpacking. I didn't have a job yet because as a teacher, the school year hadn't even started. They were still trying to figure out if they needed teachers and didn't. Everything was up in the air. Thank goodness, I had gotten connected with a church immediately, and I had found one right away that I just adored, which was the biggest blessing because I don't know what would have happened without that. But I still don't really have friends or anything. Like everyone I knew and loved and everything I knew was 3,000 miles across the country. And so I love to learn from others. I full-heartedly believe in learning from others' experiences instead of just fumbling my way through life. And I went to other Navy wives that were part of my husband's division or whatever. I still don't know the terminology.
Sounds good to me.
I don't know. He did 6 years and I'm still like, what words? They have so many different codes. But yeah, I went to the other Navy wives and I was like, what do you do? How do you survive a deployment? Because this was his very first one. We'd never done one together and we're across the country. And at first I had thought that I would maybe just go back home, but then I was like, no, I'm going to get a job and stand on my own 2 feet and be independent, which I'm really glad I did. But they told me to stay busy. And so most of them being moms, their kids kept them busy daily, but I wasn't a mom. And so I filled my calendar with everything. I was working like 6 jobs and also volunteering. It was crazy. It was nuts. And managing an entire household because my husband's not there to help. So basically I overloaded my plate to the point where I was not sleeping because I was so anxious all the time. I was so overwhelmed, and I just, I blamed everything on the deployment. Well, when my husband got home and things didn't change and I was still anxious and still overwhelmed all the time, I realized that something had to change and that it wasn't the deployment, that it was me. And by the grace of God, I started listening to podcasts for the first time, and I stumbled upon some talking about minimalism. And I was like, oh my gosh, like there was this instant light bulb click of I have too much stuff, 1, and 2, the amount of things on my to-do list that have no real intention or purpose is outrageous. And that was kind of when I realized if I'm putting something on my to-do list, it needs to have a legitimate purpose in my life other than this perfectionistic need to check things off and to do it all and be it all and have it all and, always have a clean house and always like, if it didn't have a purpose, it didn't need to be there. And so that was kind of my huge wake up moment, epiphany, to realize that I needed to simplify pretty much everything in my life.
And then did that happen overnight for you? What changes did you implement?
The first thing I did was my closet, actually. I don't really know what led me to my closet other than just that it was a huge pain getting dressed there. Like I hated getting dressed every single day. And I started decluttering my closet and ended up, after multiple rounds of decluttering with a capsule wardrobe, which made getting ready so much easier. It was a night and day difference because not only was it faster in the morning to get ready, but I felt more confident in what I was wearing because I went back to this whole idea of everything has to have a purpose. And so if something didn't make me feel great and I didn't like the way I looked in it, I said goodbye to it. No matter what the sentimental value was or guilt or any of that, I let all of that go so that everything in my closet was it was purposefully, intentionally there. And it changed my outlook on every day, which was the craziest part. And so, yeah, from there, I just started slowly decluttering our home. And then I decluttered my to-do list and my schedule. And I started implementing just more boundaries in my life. Also, it was a huge change that I made and starting to say no to people because I was a huge people pleaser before.
Got it. That's a big one. Your mission is to help overwhelmed creative entrepreneurs simplify and get organized and take back their time. Where do you start with that?
So the first thing I have all of my clients do when I onboard them is to do a lifestyle evaluation, basically.
Okay.
And they'll go through and they'll rate 8 different areas from 1 to 10, how they're feeling about that area of life. And, work is just one of those 8 categories. There's also relationships, recreation, self-care, but they go through every area of life. They sit there and they say, this is how I feel about this area, so that we can work on finding that balance together through taking back their time. I work with them to help find that work-life balance because to me, that's the pinnacle, right? We all want the work-life balance. That's what we're all aiming for, no matter what our job is. So yeah, we start there with the lifestyle evaluation and then they track their time and I go through and audit it and just share like this. You're skipping around a lot, which means you're not focused, which means this probably isn't the right activity for that time of day and different things like that.
Okay. That almost sounds scary to have someone audit your time.
It's so helpful though, because we get into these rhythms and patterns where, we think, okay, everyone says to get up early and you'll be productive. And so some people will do that. And if they're not a morning person and that's not where their energy levels are, they're going to be distracted. They're going to be skipping around from task to task. Then it just defeats the entire purpose. So I really like to help my clients work with their energy levels and where their energy is so that we can set up a schedule that actually works for you with your ebbs and flows, because we're not going to be productive 100% of the time. And I think that's a big misconception that we think we should always be on and we should always be able to check all the things off all day long, which realistically, we need to just chill out.
You talk about work-life balance and maybe just define that for me, because I think that gets a bad rap maybe.
Yes. Yeah, it really does. Because when we typically think of balance, I think a lot of people immediately think of a scale, right? So you're thinking that you need to evenly spend time on all the areas of life in order to make the scale even. If you spend too much time working, right, the other side, family life, gets neglected and vice versa. But the way I like to look at our life and work-life balance is a garden where you've got all these different plants and flowers. And I'm not a gardener, so, probably butchering this, but every different plant type, like let's say you've got succulents, they don't need as much water as catnip does. I don't know. Again, I'm not a gardener, but different plants and different flowers, trees, whatever, all of it needs different levels of water and different levels of care. And our life is the same way. No one's going to spend 40 hours cleaning their house each week just because they spent 40 hours at work.
I sure
That's
hope
not
not
realistic. Yeah, right? It's just not possible. You cannot do that. But when we think of a scale, that's what we're trying to do to ourselves, is at equal time, when realistically, you just have to find the time to balance it and water everything that needs to be watered to what it needs and give it the care that it needs versus giving it this level of attention out of guilt.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Also, talking about balance, do you have just some suggestions on how we work toward that?
Absolutely. So going back to that lifestyle evaluation, think of the different areas of your life where you're happy and where you're unhappy. And it's not where you're happy with how much time you're spending there. Again, we're taking that totally off the table. We're not talking about how much time you spend in each area of life as far as whether or not you're happy with that. It's literally, with your spouse. Do you feel close to your husband? Are you happy with where your marriage is at? With work, are you happy with work? Like those kind of questions. So you want to figure out, where are you the most fulfilled and where are you not feeling fulfilled? Where do you know that there are holes? And then you just take that area of life and you choose one small action step. I don't know. Are you a Power Sheets fan?
No.
Okay.
just not familiar.
No. It's an intentional goal planner from Cultivate What Matters. It's really awesome and I'm obsessed. But they have you do something similar where you look at where you're feeling okay and where you're not, and choosing goals and action steps that will actually get you to where you want to be in life. Basically, it's not just pulling an arbitrary goal out of the sky and saying, I want to get a promotion just because it sounds like the right thing to do,
Okay. So like finding the plant that isn't getting enough water.
Yes,
right? Okay.
Exactly. And then just choosing one really small step. Like I think a lot of times I don't feel close to my husband, so we're going to start, I don't know, we're going to eat dinner together every single night and make sure that we have this long list of questions. Like, don't do that. Just pick one night and do a date night. One small action step that you can take to bring about the closeness. And this is never an overnight process. This is always very much one small step to one small step to one small step. It takes time and it takes a lot of intentionality. It's not something that's going to be fixed overnight. But yeah, find the plant that needs watering, just like you said, and start watering it and start giving it that care without overwhelming yourself by trying to go from 0 to 100.
I like that last part. That's important for me to hear. This may be a similar answer, but my to-do list feels never ending. And I think women a lot of times put that on themselves, maybe more than men. Mm-hmm. With all the things that we juggle, I think it's just a natural thing. How can we be more intentional with our time and how can we get more done?
Okay. Really practical here. Have you heard of Trello?
Yes.
Yes. So what I do is I use Trello as a brain dump, essentially. And anything that I want to get done or needs to get done, reminders, things like that, they go straight into Trello as soon as I find out about them. The reason I love Trello is because it's a really great desktop app or website, but it's also a really great app. Like it's really user-friendly, which you don't find often. Typically, if one's good, the other one's not. But if I'm out walking and I'm not by my computer and I think, oh my gosh, I need to call the plumber about this thing, I can just pop it into Trello. So Trello, it's like the playground for everything. Every thought I have, every one day I might want to do this, because here's the thing. The reason we feel overwhelmed so often is because we have these thoughts circling our brains so that we don't forget them. Mm-hmm. Our brain reminds us over and over again, don't forget this, don't forget that, don't forget this, don't forget that. And then we're overwhelmed because we feel like there are 400 things we need to do, when in actuality, they don't all need to get done today or even this week. A lot of times it's things that we're reminding ourselves for next week or for the future, but it's not right here and right now. So you want to brain dump all of those thoughts, and it tricks your brain into thinking that you've handled that task. Even though you haven't, your brain thinks, and there's like actual psychology behind this, your brain thinks that, okay, I've taken an action step on this, so I'm done for now. So then what I use is my paper planner. I have a daily planner. So every single day I'll write in just 3 to 5 tasks that I need to do that day. And that helps it stay a lot less overwhelming, so that you've only got 5 things to worry about. When you're looking at a full list of all the stuff that needs to happen, even when some of it's not relevant, you're overwhelmed because your brain thinks I have to do all of these today. So by breaking it out and having 2 different places for a daily to-do list and a full-on brain dump, it's just so much less overwhelming.
Okay. So I use Trello and I have the desktop version, but I never thought about the app because sometimes I'm not near my computer a lot of times. And then, those thoughts keep circling, or I write it down on a random piece of paper and then that doesn't get back to my ongoing to-do list. So
yeah,
that's fantastic.
The app's great. Another thing, if Like sometimes when I'm working, I don't want to pop into Trello. So I'll keep a notebook beside me. And anytime I think of something, I just jot it down real quick. And then at the end of the day, I will move those things into Trello. So you could put a notepad on your refrigerator. And as you're going about doing things at the house, you can just, oh my gosh, I need to do this and write it down. And then set up some kind of routine or system where at the end of the day or the end of the week, pop those things into your ongoing to-do list. But here's the thing. You have to have a routine of checking in with that ongoing to-do list or things are going to fall through the cracks. So for me, every single Friday is my planning day. So I will go in, I will look at what needs to happen, and I will pop in for the next week what I'm doing on each day.
Hey there, I am jumping in to let you know about something I tried this summer, the Faster Way to Fat Loss program. After being cooped up inside this spring and then treating myself to whatever I wanted during quarantine, I needed something to get back on track. Can you relate to that? I ended up joining my friend Abby Miller's new client group. She is a certified Faster Way coach, and she was a guest all the way back on episode 2 of the show. During my time in her group, I learned things like how to intermittent fast, what macros are and how to track them, how to carb cycle. All this nutrition information, plus I had access to daily 30-minute workouts that are so doable. I even decided to continue my journey after those first 6 weeks with Abby because I've lost inches. I am getting better sleep, I have more energy, and maybe the most exciting thing for me is that I've gained muscle. I feel strong and actually have definition. Abby is such a great coach, and her next round is starting soon. Message me for more information or see the link in the show notes to sign up. Now back to my conversation. The purpose behind all of this is really about simplicity. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about a couple areas of simplicity. And first, just starting with overall life simplicity. Why is this important? And how do you see God fitting into this picture?
So again, going back to what is the purpose behind everything that we're doing? Because I think a lot of times women, like you said, we take on the mental load. We take on the mental load for our households. It's just the way it is. And because of that, our egos can get in the way because we think that we have to be everything to everyone. And we think that we have to be the best wife and the best mom and the best employee and the best room parent and whatever it may be whatever roles you have. We end up thinking this and our egos get in the way. But in actuality, God's not calling us to be perfect in any way, right? He's calling us to follow Him and to follow where He's leading us. So it all ties back into what purpose does He have and where is He calling you to be in this season of life? Because you can't do it all perfectly. So where is He calling you to really dig in this season of life? Is He calling you to really dive into your career? Or is He calling you to really do more with your kids? Whatever it may be, we want to simplify what we have on our daily schedule, in our to-do list, all of those things so that they are purpose-driven and so that we can follow where He's calling us. Because if we're trying to do everything, His voice is getting shut out.
As I told you before we hit record, I was thinking that they were two separate topics, but in actuality, we honor God with our time. So I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
What ways do you practice simplicity in your own life?
So again, practically speaking, making sure that I only have 3 to 5 items on my household to-do list every single day. It really narrows in what I can do, and it forces me to get really intentional about what I'm putting on my to-do list. Also, practically speaking, I have a set routine for all of the household management. Every Thursday is when I grocery shop. Every Wednesday is when I create the grocery list. Every Friday is when I clean the house. Having set routines helps simplify because your brain, if you look around a messy house on Wednesday and you're like, well, I need to sweep, but I'm going to do it Friday. So your brain just doesn't worry about it. Taking those things off of your mind and off of your to-do list even really helps to simplify what you're doing.
I feel like I get stuck with, I do have days, like you said, to do certain things, but I get stuck with things like, when did I change those sheets? I don't know if it's been a week or 2 weeks. I need to do that. Or when's the last time do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
and fill in the blank. And then my mind keeps reeling with that.
So what you can do is anchor those things within your schedule and routine. So like for sheets, for example, when I do laundry every single Thursday, and I mean, it's a full day. I am pushing laundry through all day and folding all day, but I do all the laundry at one day. The sheets get washed that day too, and they get changed. So by anchoring, changing the sheets into my laundry routine, it's one less thing to think about. So you can do that with any kind of routine that you've got. Like, when did I last put on the cat revolution, the flea and tick medicine?
Oh, that's a good one.
Because I forget that constantly. And now that we're back in the South, heartworm's a thing. So it's really important that they have that. But that's something that I write in my planner. The day I remember to put it on, I'll go into next month and write it in for that date. So I know, okay, this is the day that I need to do it. So anchor it into things that you already have, systems you already have in place can be really helpful.
I know that God has been doing some big things in your life, Amanda. Talk to me about what he's up to.
Yeah. So this is something that I've really been, it's kind of ironic actually, because I'm a time management coach, but I've been really struggling with slowing down. And I feel like for these last few months, God has been saying to slow down and to just be patient and to enjoy where you're at in life. And I have not been listening. I have just been, working 40 hours a week, even when my husband was home and wasn't working, trying to do all the things still because, again, as a time management coach, like I have the system set up so that I can do that. But this last week, with everything that's just been going on in the world and all the unrest, I've just felt really out of sorts and I was not motivated to get any work done. So on Tuesday this week, my mom texted me and was like, let's go to the pool. My first thought was, I can't do that. I've got to work. I need to get something done. And then my next thought was, I don't really feel like it. I'm just going to play hooky. And then when I was laying out at the pool, I had this thought of, why am I not enjoying this? Like, God has given us this huge blessing where we were able to move back to our hometown last year. We are so thankful to be back in the South, and not that we didn't love Washington. We loved it, but we're so glad to be home. I'm so glad to have a real summer again. Like I can't even, and I'm not enjoying it. I'm just spending all my time working. And because I was managing my time well, and I still had time for my husband, and I felt like I had balance, because I felt like I had that balance, I wasn't just slowing it down and enjoying the summer that we've been given, and also with these restrictions lifting, we actually have the capability to enjoy the summer.
Right.
But I was sitting at the pool and I just realized, why am I even using words like I'm going to play hooky? Like, why am I not taking the time to intentionally do this? Right. So I actually just the other day created a whole new schedule for myself where I'm only working 25 hours a week for the summer, and really just slowing down and giving myself space to just enjoy where I'm at in life, enjoy the summer, work on house projects, all these different things that, I just hadn't been taking the time to appreciate. So it's super ironic because I'm a time management coach, but it's definitely slowing down is a big one right now.
All right. Well, that's great. I would love to hear about your podcast, Chasing Simple.
Yeah. So it's a business podcast for entrepreneurs, mostly solopreneurs really. But basically, if you want to simplify different aspects of your business, that's a podcast you want to listen to. It also, so what I love is it's really practical, but it also really focuses on the hard parts of entrepreneurship, because like anyone who's listening knows, if you're an entrepreneur, especially in the online space, it is really lonely. And I think that so often we feel like we're the only ones going through all of these different struggles, when in actuality, we're all doing it and we're all going through it. We don't talk about it because in the online space, you've got to be Insta-worthy and this and that. So it's part, let's talk about the struggle, especially when I have guests on. Let's talk about the hard things, but also here's some really practical steps you can take to simplify your business. It's that sounds really uncohesive words, but I think it works really well in the episodes.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And if someone were wanting to work with you as a time management coach, you mentioned a little bit earlier, what they would expect. But do you have any more pieces that you would like to let us know about?
Yeah. I mean, basically, I have a really simple system where I help my clients create a batch schedule and work on batching content for the solopreneurs out there. You've got to create content. This podcast is content that Johanna creates for all of you each week, right? So we work on creating a batch schedule and system. We work on time blocking so that you have that balance. That's a whole other topic we could have gotten into, but time blocking basically allows you to create rhythms and routines in your day that aren't they're tied to different areas of life versus being tied to your to-do list. So then we set up time blocking in their lives. And then we also work on the whole banishing aspect, which is like I was talking about with Trello, putting all of those thoughts into a place that will keep them safe without them circling your brain constantly. And so that's kind of the main system we work through. And then we just continually simplify and go back to those steps. It's kind of like a cycle. We work on those and then we simplify what they're doing in their life and business. And then we go back to those and revisit and simplify and so on and so forth.
Okay, that sounds great. I love these ideas that you've given me. I hope all my listeners are getting, sparks of ideas of places where they could simplify in their lives and just really evaluate what are those plants that need some water or what needs pulled out of the garden altogether too.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times when we think minimalism, we think stuff, which is a great place to start. But once you've decluttered your stuff, you're still overwhelmed because there's so much more to it than that. So I just want to encourage everyone that you can simplify your schedule and you have the power to do that and to set boundaries and to say no. And it's totally possible to simplify your schedule and to simplify your to-do list.
Wonderful. I want to ask you, Amanda, for your favorite 5. What are 5 things that you're wearing or eating or doing that are your favorites right now?
Okay, I stressed about this so much, guys. It was like, I don't know what to say. I'm not that interesting. But Goodreads is something that I just started using this year. I knew about it before, but for whatever reason, I always tracked. I'm a huge bookworm. And I always tracked what I was reading manually, like on a piece of paper. I don't know why. And then I started using Goodreads in January and I'm just like, holy cow, it counts how many books I've read. I could get all kinds of recommendations. It's amazing. I love it.
Okay. I have never used it. I've heard of it, but you track what you read and what else do you do there?
Yeah. So it'll track what you're reading and then you can rate how you felt about each book, which for me is really helpful because I try to put up, I'm really behind because it's June right now. I try to put up a list each year of all the books I read in the previous year just to give people ideas. But sometimes I'm like, I don't remember that book because I read so many. So that's really helpful. You can write reviews also. And I like it because I can connect with my other bookworm friends and see what they're reading and get ideas because when you go through as many books as I do, sometimes you're like, I don't know what to read next. There's nothing out there. So that's really nice too. It's just getting other recommendations from people because you can see what they're reading and, what they rated it at as well.
That's great. I was on this big beach kick, like beach reads, and some of them, the titles all sound the same. So I was trying to figure out what I had read and what I hadn't read. So that's very helpful.
Okay. Number 2 is Proverbs 31 experience guides. I have been using these for years now. And this year I decided I was going to go through the prophets with them, which is really fun. It's heavy, but what the experience guides are, because let me back up. I've been a Christian my entire life. I was, raised in the Bible Belt, but it wasn't until college that I really realized what it meant to have a relationship with God. And so I didn't start truly digging into the Bible myself until I was an adult. And Sunday school is not happening anymore. You don't have those learning opportunities. And so the Bible was really overwhelming. I would read it and have no idea what it meant. And the experience guides break them down into there's like 5 questions a day. And you read 1 chapter a day and they ask you these questions. And it helps you understand what's actually happening in the chapter and then also how you can relate it to your life. So yes, I really love those. I've been using them for years.
I've used a couple and I totally agree. And it's not overwhelming.
Yes.
You can get lots more information than if you're just reading it yourself, but not overwhelming with all this extra to do. So those are great.
Yeah. And they're a companion to their First 5 app, which is free. And then the app has like a little devotional that goes with the chapter and a prayer. And so it literally is called the first 5 because it's supposed to take 5 minutes. So when you do the experience guide, it's a little more than 5 minutes, but it's especially for all the moms that are listening, it's a really great way to get a Bible study in each morning and have that quiet time, or whenever you do your quiet time. But for me, it's the morning, getting that in without it being this huge, overwhelming time commitment.
What's next for you? What's number 3?
Okay, number 3, this is super nerdy, but I started playing The Sims 2 again. And for those that have no idea what I'm talking about, it's a life simulation computer game that I played very heavily as a kid, but they're actually on the 4th. Like The Sims 4 is the one they're working on right now. And I have that too, but I like 2 better. And so I went back to 2 recently, and it's a nice creativity break for me because you can build houses and decorate houses, but then also like through the life simulation portion, there's storytelling. It's a whole really nerdy thing. But if anyone is listening and they know what I'm talking about, please find me on Instagram because I'd love to chat. But that's been a big thing for me. It's super nerdy. My husband and I are both gamers, so we're real lame.
That's so funny. So my daughter does, what's it called? Minecraft.
Yeah.
Is it anything like that? Because she builds houses and not quite.
Kind of, sort of. The thing about The Sims is that there's no competitors to it. It's literally just its own thing, but it's really cool. Okay, this one, we're kind of moving past this at this point, but this was something we did during all the coronavirus stuff, was Disney movie date nights. So I'm a huge Disney nerd. My husband is not. Bless his heart. He's so sweet to me to do this. But during coronavirus, typically we like to go out for date night, obviously. And I'm usually pretty against during date night just sitting there and watching TV because I actually want to connect with each other.
Right.
Coronavirus, that was more difficult. So something we started doing, we were part of the Disney Movie Club, and we also have Disney Plus, which is pretty redundant, but again, I'm obsessed. So we would just pick out a movie, and then we would put on I would put on ears. He won't wear ears. I would put on ears, and we would put on like Disney shirts because we have entirely too many. And yeah, it was just a sweet, and like get snacks and things like that. Just a typical like movie date night, but we would dress it up and make it really Disney. And that was really fun. So
you needed special things to do during that. So that totally makes sense. I like that.
Yeah. And then the last one is just enjoying summer. Like I said, in Washington, that was not summer. They think it is, but it's not. No, but it's so nice to just the sunshine and the heat and I love humidity, which is really weird. I know, and most people don't, but I love it. And I'm just so excited to be able to do things like go to the pool and go to the beach and enjoy water and it be hot and sweaty. And I don't know. That's just, I'm really, really excited not only to be here for summer because this is the first year we moved back in September. So we missed summer last year. So it's the first summer back, and with having been quarantined, it's so nice to be able to go out and go to the pool and go to the beach. So yeah, I'm really all about summer right now.
I feel the same way. Absolutely. Getting outside has been fantastic.
It's so nice.
Well, Amanda, I so appreciate your expertise in time management, and I love the idea of making things simpler. Oh my goodness. No matter whether you're a stay-at-home mom or if you work in corporate or if you are a solopreneur, like you mentioned, we all need to simplify and get control of our time. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for what you shared with us.
Well, thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I feel like I could talk to you about this for hours. So thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Amanda. I found it so interesting that she mentioned starting with her closet. If you listened to the last episode with Chelsea DeMattis, she said the very same thing. So guess what I'm doing this week, ladies? You got it. I'm tackling my closet. Wish me luck. I also had the privilege of sitting down with Amanda for a time management deep dive. Remember that overwhelm that I was telling you about at the beginning of the show? Well, she helps me walk through those things, and together we came up with a plan and a schedule for my days. We put in the anchors I was already using, we added some more, and Amanda helped me to see blocks in my day where I can give focused attention to certain tasks, and we simplified my home management schedule. If this sounds life-saving to you like it does to me, Amanda is generously offering my listeners, that's you, 10% off a time management strategy package. Her space is limited and she only has a few spots left this year, so be sure to get in touch with her soon. You can find her at amandawarfield.com and be sure to mention Girls Talking Life for your discount. If you have a friend who needs to hear about this week, please share the show with them. And friends, don't let the conversation stop when the show is over. Share your stories and start your own conversations with the girls in your life. I'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Thanks for tuning in.